Hey, Professor Homa, we're going to take a look at Breakfast Barn, and we're not going to do a whole lot with it. You can see what I did here. I worked with a script font, and again, I kept these separate so I could move these around if I wanted to try it over here. And what I'm trying to do is, just like I looked at some of the other logos, is keep it open, clean, and that they work well at small sizes. So that's why we're doing them small too. If you can read them at a small size, that's good. Here's other ideas that another student was working on. But I'm going to work on Breakfast Barn here, and I'm not going to work on it, but I'm just going to show you just this thing here. How did I do that? Well, you can see it's half of a circle and there's a rectangle. So it's simple stuff, and I'm just going to simplify it. I guess I'll do the bottom part since I started drawing that. Now what you could do here, and I mentioned this, is you can get rid of, if you use this direct selection tool, it selects anchor points, which you can move around like that. I'll undo it. Or you can actually, if you click off and then click on a line segment, which is at the bottom here, I'll zoom into that, you could select that line segment and hit delete, and it kind of opens it up. Now, how did I get that part? Well, you could draw a white box over it, or you could click off, grab this thing, and move this up. And you could hold shift as you move things so it constrains it. That's how I did that part. And I did that little open part so that the Breakfast Barn text could fit in there. Now this thing here, same technique. I used the ellipse and I just chopped it with a rectangle, and it's not as shallow as a bun, so you can kind of move it down a little so you get that kind of arching top. And I'm just going to highlight both of the shapes. When you run a Pathfinder, it's for two overlapping closed shapes, and I'm going to go to find my Pathfinder, which is down at the bottom right now. And I'm going to use minus front, and there's my shape. Now if you wanted the bottom there, that's fine. If you want to get rid of it, you could take this white arrow, click off, click on this bottom line segment, and it makes a line segment. That's kind of open, and you could hold shift and scale down a little bit and move it over here. And that's kind of, that's kind of how I did that. It's a little tall right now, but I like and if you need to adjust the stroke up here, that you can adjust the stroke a little bit. One thing to keep in mind is if you're using strokes and then you're going to scale the whole logo, it's very important you do this, is if you go into your preferences, you should be able to find that on Windows as well, but if you go into your preferences and just go into general, there should be a checkbox that says scale strokes and effect right here. It's very important you check that, so if you make something real small, the stroke doesn't stay the same size. So make sure that you have that checked, so when you start to scale things, it'll be a little easier. So that's all I did with this. This part here, I just used the pen tool and kind of traced around this. So you can kind of trace around objects to try and get these shapes. I don't expect you to do a whole lot of tracing. I expect you to kind of make it simple. But if you did, for example, I forget what I used. You could look up a chicken head or anything. Okay, here's some chicken heads here. Now I don't want to use a logo like this because someone already created that. I'd want to find almost a real chicken or something that I could kind of make into my own. So I could click on this thing, and I could even copy it. I could copy image and just paste it right into Illustrator. I'll bring it right into Illustrator, and I'll do a Command V. Now it comes in giant right now, so it's bigger than my page, so I'm gonna scale this thing down, it's good that it's great. There's such high resolution chicken art out there, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with doing this, and I'm not going to go over the whole. I have lots of videos posted on tracing and using the pen tool, but what you could do with the pen tool is kind of go around here and kind of create a shape by just using, let me zoom in more, just using straight line segments. And I have no stroke here. Let me give it like a green stroke or something. No fill. And what I'm doing is I'm just going around here making a shape like this, and I'll just do this part first. I'll just do the part of the chicken, and I don't have to be perfect about it. And I'll just continue it over here. Now what I'm doing with this, what I'm going to do with this shape, this one, I'll move it over here just so you can see what I did, and for some reason I'm not seeing the stroke, so I'll put the stroke back there. And the other tool you could use is underneath the pen tool, there's this convert tool. And if you just drag it on here, you could kind of convert these straight lines to kind of round corners. Now if you click on them again, it sucks in the handles and makes it a point again. And you can make these work independently too, but just for some, I'm not expecting a lot of work, especially if you haven't used this a lot. Some people have used this in Illustrator already. And if they go in the wrong direction, I'm just rounding these off just a little bit here. And I'm not even doing the inner ones. I'll round this off over here. So that's kind of my chicken thing. If an anchor point's not in the right direction, just take your white arrow. That's using, look at that. That's why you got to be real careful with these things. I'll undo that and I'll zoom in. These things are really hard. You got to make sure you get on the anchor point. I'll get right on the anchor point there, not on the handles, and just move that a little bit. And that's something I can use. I don't expect a lot of illustration here, but if you had to do something, you could kind of trace things with the pen tool and just make the idea is to make something really simple. So then I could take this and fill it up here, give it a fill of red, take away the stroke, and then I have something to work with for a chicken. Then I might trace like a beak, trace something else. Again, I'd want to be real simple. You can see my chicken down here. There's nothing really detailed. I'd want to clean it up. It isn't a really good chicken yet, but this is the chicken I ended up drawing. You can see what I did here. It's real simplified. Probably needs more work. Doesn't look too great yet. Yeah, I need to make those lines work a little bit. But look at Chick-fil-A, how they did their chicken. Real simple kind of stuff. Real simple, nothing real detailed. So I don't expect you to be tracing chickens unless you really wanted a chicken in there. Okay, some people were working with eggs. Here I took toast. Now just let me show you how I did that toast. I took Breakfast Barn and I copied it, and I'm just using the B, and I did something called type create outlines. And what that does is it breaks the type down into their actual paths, and they're grouped at first. And I'm going to go here and ungroup it, object ungroup. And that means that should allow me to delete the breakfast part and keep the B. And then what I still have is these holes in the middle. And what I did was go in, and I think I did object. I don't know if I could, it's not going to ungroup again because this is what's called a compound path. But what you could do is go inside here even more, take your white arrow, click on here, click one of these things, and hit delete and delete again. And then click on here and hit delete. It'll do a line segment, then it'll do that entire path. That's easier than trying to break it down. That's how I did the toast thing. And then I kind of adjusted the shade. It's not really a successful use of it, but that's what I did for Breakfast Barn. So these were some of my ideas for Breakfast Barn. Again, they're just sketches. These aren't final ideas or anything. They're just some sketches to present. And I know I just made up Breakfast Barn and Burger House. They're kind of hard to work with, but just to get your design muscles kind of in shape a little bit, we kind of worked from thumbnail sketches to getting some ideas together. Quick ideas, going from one to the other, not falling in love with one or the other too much, just so we can move on and work on some other ideas. And next we're going to work on our Angus Steakhouse, like that contest, and then we're going to do a couple things with the Angus Steakhouse, and that's more of preparation for our logo that we're going to design.